Chapter 5, Corporate and IT Governance. This is Section 4 of 4, Business Continuity Planning. The learning outcomes include explore options for business continuity management systems in the event of a disruptive event. Describe the process of due diligence as it relates to the IT context. Now let's look at business continuity planning, which is essential for any company, no matter the industry, size, location, etc. Your organization needs to know how it will continue to serve its customers and stakeholders after something happens to disrupt its technology infrastructure. BCP describes all of the resources involved in resuming operations as quickly as possible, minimizing the disruption on processes and stakeholders while preserving the evidence for the future. The 5 basic steps for BCP include: Step 1 is assessing risk. This is where you determine the risk that you face and the probability of those risks materializing. Step 2 is analyzing the impact on the organization if the risk occurs. This is where you analyze what happens to your organization when the risk materializes. What effect does it have on company operations, paying bills, providing uninterrupted service to customers, and so forth. Step 3 is identifying strategies to recover from a risk that materializes. Step 4 is developing plans in the case of disruptive events. And Step 5 is testing the plan regularly, refining over time as needed. Notice that BCP may also be called a Business Continuity Management System as defined by ISO. We mentioned ISO, and let's define it and what it does. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, is a quality designation that businesses may earn. These guidelines specify that the organization has met the objectives to comply with ISO recommendations. ISO 22301, which was last updated in 2012, is titled Societal Security-Based Continuity Management Systems Requirements. According to ISO 22301, a business continuity management system requires that an organization plan, establish, implement, operate, monitor, review, maintain, and improve. It is a documented management system to protect against, reduce the likelihood of occurrence, prepare for, respond to, and recover from disruptive incidents when they arise. These steps closely link with the 5-step model described in the previous slides. As this chart shows, companies who are certified as being ISO 9001 compliant realize internal and external benefits, along with signaling benefits resulting in lower cost, increased income, and better financial performance. Due diligence is often thought of in terms of legal definitions. Your attorney should conduct due diligence to try to gather all of the information regarding the allegations that have been leveled against you. Due diligence, however, should be applied to the IT unit in the organization. Due diligence in an IT context refers to the effort made by a reasonable person to avoid harm to another person or group or organization. If you don't make the effort, you are negligent. For instance, if you developed an app to monitor the levels of sugar of diabetics and to automatically adjust the insulin levels as needed, and the app failed, You may be held liable for injuries and/or deaths caused by your failure to exercise due diligence. When you're dealing with potential harm to someone, due diligence is particularly relevant. To complete due diligence for IT, you should first evaluate the current state of IT. What systems are in place? What infrastructure allows your organization to accomplish goals? How are IT processes designed, developed, and implemented in a repeatable manner? Next, you should evaluate scalability. If the company needs to grow quickly, can the current infrastructure, technology, and other resources meet those needs? You may need to plan for the future and use contract workers or even outsource to increase capabilities quickly. Next is the risk assessment, and here is where you look at the business continuity and disaster recovery plans. You shouldn't neglect considering opportunity cost. What happens if you don't jump on an opportunity that shows up? Do you have key IT personnel in place who can manage larger projects and travel if needed? All of these items should be considered when assessing risk. Finally, you can't consider IT without taking a look at the budget. You can compare the salaries of your IT workers to others in similar industries. There may also be cost savings by updating legacy and out-of-date systems. As an example, consider due diligence for one of the most important resources, the people. Do they have the right skills, competencies, and background to support the technology needs of the current and future organization? Do they need additional training on new technology opportunities? Are there any problems with separation of duties? That is, if one person resigns unexpectedly, can others step up to fill the gap quickly and efficiently? Are there turnover problems with IT staff? If so, what can you do to reduce the turnover and improve the effectiveness of the organization? Does the organization properly document, implement, and review all relevant policies and procedures? If not, what can the unit do to improve the documentation? Does the organization put into place clear assessment standards with appropriate rewards and punishments if needed? How are IT employees evaluated? How often? Who does the evaluation and who contributes feedback? Do employees have a clearly defined job description that outlines responsibilities and expectations? And how do salaries for our IT employees compare to others in similar industries? How do they compare to other IT workers in general? Should we implement an equity adjustment plan over time to bring our salaries more in line with the rest of the field? This is just one small example of due diligence that should be regularly undertaken by IT managers. The disaster recovery plan looks at what to do when the anticipated risk materializes. A disaster recovery plan is an important part of the business continuity plan. It defines specifically the process to recover IT assets after a disruptive event. The DRP focuses on technology recovery. Other units should have their own plans in place, which should all integrate into the overall organizational plans. The DRP specifically identifies the people by title or job description or teams that are responsible for taking immediate action after a disruptive event. DRPs must be practiced regularly and updated as needed, as needs, risk, and probabilities of risk change over time. To illustrate the need for a disaster recovery plan, consider these statistics. 93% of businesses with data center failures for 10 or more days go bankrupt within 1 year. That's a powerful argument for the importance of business continuity planning and disaster recovery. 43% of companies that experience a disruptive event never reopen. So that's almost half of businesses who have a serious breach or stolen information will never reopen. Finally, only 6% of businesses without a disaster recovery plan survive in the long term. Those without a plan inevitably experience a disruptive event, and almost all of them go out of business quickly. Clearly, disaster recovery plans are an integral part of an overall organizational business continuity management system. To summarize this section on business continuity planning, organizations should plan for interruptions, disasters, breaches, hacks, stolen information, etc. Those organizations that do not develop plans go out of business. A business continuity management system or plan should be created, and there must be a plan to recover after a disruptive event that you've hopefully planned for after it occurs. When developing plans in the event of disruptive events, IT departments must exhibit due diligence and consider all IT resources, competitors, other stakeholders, the public, the industry, the regulatory environment, etc. Business continuity management systems are an integral component of any IT department.